Hey there, guys! We're doing our first Kamigawa Neon Dynasty Commander deck tech here for today. We're doing Isshin Two Heavens as One Commander deck. Alrighty, so we're doing Isshin Two Heavens as One Commander deck here for today. This is a commander that I was debating a fair bit to build or not build for a little while. I thought I would build it in this way to sort of, think about a bit more building it myself, whether I was, whether I wasn't. I think I probably will because I'm at this point already. But anyway, I'm going to do this deck tech for you guys as well so that you guys can sort of see why I'm sort of interested in building this deck. And it's kind of obvious why I am, but I guess we'll go through it together. But anyway, basically Isshin is an attacking pan-harmonicon, essentially. So whenever we attack, we get double triggers on our attacks. Whenever an opponent attacks, we also get double triggers on anything that triggers when they attack. So we can run all kinds of different creatures, enchantments, and artifacts that happen to trigger whenever we attack, and we'll get benefits from those effects. So there's some really interesting and fun things that we can do with this commander. And of course, I'm the type of person who wants to go to combat and attack and do the dumb things, I guess, to a degree, because of course I do, because I think that that's the best thing to do and the most fun. I love just like attacking. That's the most simple, easy way to sort of win games, I think, and whatnot. Sometimes you can't attack every time, but I think just like I do damage to you. That's the way I win, is like the easiest and simplest way to say, how do you win? Oh, I hit you with my creatures that are in my deck. That's just the way I look at it. But anyway, that's just me. But anyway, let's get right into this deck and have a look at some of the cards that we will be looking at putting in. The main reason that I actually was building this deck was because I had a Queen Marchesa deck a little while ago, or just recently, really. I'm still kind of tearing it apart. Plus, I still have Queen Marchesa sort of sitting around there because she's pretty decent value card. She doesn't do anything with attacks, but still it's pretty nice to have that Death Touch from there. And the Monarch, plus again, whenever we attack someone to get the Monarch, we can get extra triggers and whatnot. And we don't care too much if we lose it. We just need to keep getting it back. And we have lots of ways to keep getting it back. So that's really good. But anyway, new cards. Not a lot of these new cards, especially the Samurai and Warriors and things like that, will be of much interest to me. If you want to build this in a Voltron sort of way, then perhaps some more of these will be more interesting to you. I was building it as a go wide deck, whereas a lot of these Samurai want you to attack with one creature and whatnot. So I didn't really want to go down that route. That's not the route I wanted to go down. But obviously there's just good cards in it, like Showdown Pass, Shattered Sanctum as well. So there's also some other great cards out there, certainly. But a lot of these cards weren't cards I was considering. Of course, there's other great cards like Arcane Signet, Swords to Plowshares that I did pick up as well. One of these high synergy cards that I always get, talking about is Itali. I don't like Itali personally. And the main reason is because it's so chaotic and I don't really like getting my opponent's stuff, because my opponent's stuff is often just bad or, whatnot. So I would rather it just get my own stuff for the most part, because, again, my stuff is going to synergize with what my deck is doing. My opponent's deck's stuff isn't really going to synergize with what I'm doing and whatnot. Yeah, sure, it's nice value to a degree, but again, I just don't like it personally. But of course, if you like Atali, you want to play Atali, Atali's pretty darn good, can do quite a lot. There's some other cards that are quite good, like Brutal Horde Chief, that is there, that's, you know, really good. But again, I just personally didn't really like it. That's me and the way that I want to play or don't want to play. That's kind of the decisions I make. But of course, it is a really good card, so if you want to run it, run it. Fervent Charge, really great. I really like this. This is a really great card that I thought, you know, would go pretty well in a deck like this. Of course, I haven't fully put the deck together in actual paper as yet. But as I say, this is a definite card that I was definitely thinking about putting in. Adeline, I had that in Queen Marchesa anyway, and now it just happens to be really good in this deck as well. So, yeah, that's really useful. I like Mardu Ascendancy quite a bit. Getting those free 1/1s, it's a lot like Adeline in a lot of ways. You know, and you can sacrifice it to buff your creatures defensively, which can be okay sometimes if somebody's just going to blow it up anyway. You know, and at least you can defend with your stuff that you might have untapped or whatever, and you can, you know, boost your defenses hopefully so you can survive. So that's pretty good. Karazakar, when he attacks, basically we will be able to tap 2 things now and go 2 of our opponent's things for each creature that we attack with. Yeah, that's quite a bit of tapping, quite a bit of goading. We're not a goad deck per se, but again, just goading our opponent's stuff can be really useful. It gets the heat off of our back and means that we can just, you know, keep attacking our opponents, and being able to be basically unblockable for the most part is really good. We don't ever have to worry about blocks because we can just tap everything down. When our opponents attack each other and whatnot, we get to draw cards. We do lose life for that, but, you know, that's still pretty good because we do need that card draw coming as well. Sun Titan, of course, we all know Sun Titan's really good and whatnot, so I really liked putting that in. Brina, I actually had Brina in Queen Marchesa as well, and I think I had Sun Titan in there as well, but still, it's still a really good card. Whenever your creature attacks, you know, if it's the opponent with the most life, basically, the attacking creature gets +1/+1, 2+1/+1 counters, and you draw a card. So, you know, nice little bit of card draw. Doubling that up can be really good, really useful. 4+1/+1 counters and draw 2 cards. That's really good. Duelist Heritage, that's really good because we can give now 2 creatures double strike whenever they attack. So if a creature's not attacking us, again, if we've goaded something, we can give one of our opponent's things double strike, then we can give another one double strike, so that's really useful. Also works on our own stuff, so can be really good there too. I didn't know about some of the curses. I was thinking about the one that's actually an aura that you put on your own creature or put on an opponent's creature, Shiny Impetus. Plus it buffs up the creature that it's on, but I don't really like auras. I'm one of those people, and I think I've sort of said this in a few videos, but, you know, I don't like auras that go on creatures and whatnot because they're so easy to remove and whatnot. They're so fragile. So I just went with no, and, like, I went with Sword of the Animist instead because I happen to have Sword of the Animist. Plus, again, it was like, I don't know, $4 cheaper or something, I think. So, you know, and I had Sword of the Animist in there anyway already, so I thought, well, that's a lot better because it's an equipment, and if a creature dies, I'll just equip it to something else or whatever. So that's pretty good. Obviously, just a lot of the talismans. I think I was missing the red, black one, but, you know, they're just really good cards. I think Mangara was kind of an interesting card that I was thinking about for a little while, but I kept thinking about it and kept thinking that it wasn't that good. But I don't know, maybe it is pretty decent. If it had a bigger butt, per se, and sort of had an ability that it sort of didn't die from damage or something like that, basically that it can block anything for you, then it would be really good in more so ways. So that can be really good still, I didn't think much of it really. Krazul, the Tyrant of Cliffs, he's pretty interesting because opponents have to pay basically double now. Otherwise, you get two lots of 3/3s for each attacker and whatnot. Yeah, sure, you don't really get around people who have flying and other evasion and whatnot, but still, a bunch of 3/3s to be able to block for you can be really useful. I'm still umming and erring whether to put this card in. There are a couple other cards that I'm umming and erring whether to put in or not, but I do think that it could be useful. But it's only really a pillar fort card, so I wanted to be more aggro than what this is being to a degree. Delina, I do like Delina, but I'm not 100% sold on Delina. But the thing is, we can clone things and we can make non-legendary clones of these things. They do go away at the end of the combat or whatever, but still, just having more bodies on the field is really good. You could have some really explosive turns with this, especially since you get double triggers whenever you attack and whatnot. So you're already rolling 2d20 to start with. And you'll obviously get at least 2 copies of something, so that's at least pretty good, when you attack, so that can be really useful. There are a few cards that are here in this section, like Tectonic Giant and Bruce Tal, and maybe Goldspan Dragon as well, that I was thinking these could be good or these could be interesting and whatnot, but I'm not 100% sold on them to me. Like, I know there are other cards here like Hellrider and whatnot that some people would think to play as well. But again, just me, the way I want to build this deck. And again, you guys build the deck the way you want to build it. Don't 100% take everything I say with, like, this is God's green law or whatever, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, these cards are cards that people are playing and the cards that do work with what the commander's doing, but maybe not as well as maybe what other cards will do. So, that's where I'm at. I'm still trying to find the more optimally build for me, for the most part. I like Vengeful Ancestor. Again, the same sort of thing. With your goading, you can get those other people attacking, not you, so that you can keep attacking and whatnot. So that can be really useful. Plus, you go 2 things when you attack. That's really useful and whatnot. So can be really good. I like Aroas because giving Menace is pretty good anyway, and you prevent your damage to your creatures. So basically gives them indestructible. In a sense, in combat. So if they do get blocked, they don't really die. So that can be really useful because you are getting in combat. And again, giving them Menace is really useful as well. So it makes them harder to block and whatnot. So yeah, there's lots of upsides there. Drakaseth and Inferno Attack and Archon of Cruelty are all in the same boat for me. I really thought they're really cool at one point or another to a degree, especially Drakaseth and Archon. But now I don't really like them. But that's just me. They are pretty darn good cards, especially Drakaseth and Archon, especially since they have flying, they have natural evasion and whatnot. So again, they can be really useful. But again, I just sort of didn't like them for the way that I wanted to build this deck. I like Adriana. I think Adriana's pretty darn good. That's just me. Though, again, I want to go on the basically pure aggro, pure attacks, pure power and toughness based beatdown plan rather than life drain or damage or whatnot or burn or whatever else. I just want creatures that hit, basically, and buffs. That's what I want. I think Winota's interesting. It's hard for me to figure out how good it's going to be, though. It could be really good, though, so I was thinking about putting it in. I don't know how many non-humans we have in this deck, and I also don't know how many humans we have in this deck. It's not like a tribal deck or whatever. It's just a deck that happens to have some non-humans and some humans. So maybe it could do something. I don't know. It could do nothing. But still, it could be really useful. So I was thinking it potentially could go in the list. Fireflux Swad, I think that's pretty decent. Just if, like, we'll make some random tokens and whatnot here and there around the place with whatever we're doing, and then we can just sack them, or like Adeline or whatnot, things like that, or Delina, triggers and whatnot, things like that, or zombie tokens, different things, whatnot. So that's why I kind of like these cards more so. Like Winota, you can easily sacrifice certain things and whatnot to get them out of the way, to get real creatures from your deck and whatnot. So that can be really useful. I like Ilhag, but I don't know how many big things it can tune into play, though there are some big things that it can tune into play. But again, we will miss that when it attacks trigger. But we do get that to do that twice with Ilhag when it comes out. So that is pretty decent. Getting to sort of sneak attack two things into play is pretty darn good. So yeah, can be useful. I was thinking about some of this venture into the dungeon stuff like Nadir and a couple other cards. I don't know how good like venturing into the dungeon will be in the deck, or how like much I'll put in the deck, if any. But there is some stuff like this that gives you that incremental value and eventually something fairly decent out of that dungeon crawl, essentially. And then like these things, especially Nadir, that give you an additional benefit to a degree once you've completed a dungeon or whatever, are pretty interesting for the deck to help it out. So maybe Combat Calligrapher, oh my god, this is just Adeline on steroids. This is one of the best cards, in my opinion, that's in the deck, because you just get these inklings that, attack your opponents, and then even if your opponents get inklings when they attack, your other opponents and whatnot, the inklings that they get, they can't attack you. So, they go, oh, well, now I've got this inkling or whatever, I'm going to attack you with the inkling. Oh, by the way, no, you can't attack me with the inklings. Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Poor you. So it's just one of those things. The inklings have flying. That's really powerful. Just that extra evasion is really useful. So, yeah, it's really worthwhile putting in there. There are some other things here that I'm just sort of now seeing from the new set and whatnot find their way into the data. Go. Interesting. Giving your stuff haste. You can create dragon spirits and whatnot. So that can help out to a degree. I don't know, but the haste would be my opinion of the thing that is the most important there. Flame Rush Rider is kind of interesting. You kind of have this bad 3/3 for 4 that, creates a copy of another target attacking creature that's tapped and attacking, you exile it at end of combat rather. So it can help you trigger even more things and whatnot. So that can be useful to a degree. Morag, really good. Getting those extra combats. Anything that gives you extra combats essentially is, pan-harmoniconing again your commander's ability, because you get another attack. So therefore you get more triggers off your commander. So that can be really good. I had that again in the Machisa deck because it was more about, like what this deck is probably actually trying to do. It's trying to attack and trying to do stuff. I'm not going to go through too many of the instances of sorceries because most of them don't really affect the game plan for the most part. They're just good removal, like Despark, Generous Gift, things like that, and whatnot. So for the most part, I don't really think it's worth talking about too much of this stuff because, it's all fairly standard-ish stuff for the most part, in my opinion, like Ruinous Ultimatum, things like that, Jessica's Will, so on and so forth. I really want to get a farewell or two, maybe, again, so that could be really good as well. So we'll move on. I don't know that we're playing very many other artifacts. We definitely are playing a Wayfarer's Bauble, though it doesn't add much to the deck overall. I was thinking about some of the vehicles that are actually in the other new pre-con. I don't know, maybe they could be good enough. I'm not sure. Smuggler's Copter can be decent. We do have to crew it for one, but we could find ways to pretty easily do that. Parhelion 2 can keep making lots and lots of angels that are attacking as well. So that can be really useful as well. Just lots of angels flying suddenly coming at you, which is suddenly doubled. That gets scary pretty darn quickly. And it's only crew for 4, which is, fairly reasonable. Maybe worthwhile thinking about. I was thinking about search the premises, maybe, because then we can get, clues to draw cards if people attack us. Could be worth it, maybe, but I would rather just play something that says if somebody attacks you, you draw a card. I don't know. Again, I wasn't sure on any of the curses, though. The curses are a bit tempting to a degree to be like, oh, I get more tokens, or I get more zombies, or I get more treasure, or I get more this, that, whatever. Could be good, but still, I don't know. Tempted in Solitude, I will say this for those people who are playing a Voltron version of this deck. This is a great card for that version of this deck, or any Voltron deck that's in red. There only are a few ones, but there are a lot of equipment-based ones actually, so that could go really well in a deck like this. Thorough Investigation, that is in the deck, or it was in the deck as well before, but still, it still is in the deck, and is still pretty darn useful. So getting 2 clues now when we attack, that can be really useful, really good to get us more card draw. Gleam of Battle. I really liked Gleam of Battle because it's a very cheap enchantment. Buffs all your stuff when it attacks with a +1/+1 counter. Now you're going to get 2 +1/+1 counters on everything. That's going to be really powerful and really do quite a lot of work. So it can be really, really good. I was thinking about Aggravated Assault and some of these other take extra combat things, but I don't really think we have ways to abuse them. And if we had ways to abuse them, then the deck becomes a little bit samey to a degree, and a little bit like, well, we just do this and win. I don't want to go through too many of the non-basic lands because I don't really think there's much here. I don't really want to go through too many of the mana rocks because, again, it's mostly what you would expect. Most of the same sort of thing. Boros Signet, Rakdos Signet, Orgozov Signet, Felwar Stone, things like that for the most part. Now, again, I don't want to go through too much of the lands because, again, it's mostly what you would expect. Command Tower, or Godless Shrine, Blood Crypt, Sacred Foundry, Spectator Seating, Vault of Champions, Exotic Orchard, Haunted Ridge, and the other new slow lands, essentially. Luxury Suite. Actually, Path of Ancestry as well. I keep putting Path of Ancestry in more and more decks because even if it's not a tribal deck, it's just scry 1 when you play your commander, and it's a, command tower that enters tap, so it can be worth the time. I don't really like these Temple of Triumph, the one-off scries, but when you get that scry, a couple times throughout the game sometimes, and sometimes you'll just happen to have creatures in your deck that happen to share a type with your commander, so it can do even more work, or you have to recast your commander, can do even more work, so it can be useful. But again, not much, again, to talk about for the most part with the lands because, they're lands. Some other cards that are new, that are from the pre-con decks that I quickly want to talk about, we'll move over and have a look at those before we end up here. So again, I was talking about like vehicles that could go in this deck. I think Aerial Surveyor could be all right, pretty decent. Attacking to find you a land can be really good. And it is a 3 mana that crews for 2, and it is a 3/4 flyer. Pretty useful, lots of nice evasion, and we do get that trigger twice, which can be really useful. Dumb Dweller, this can be really good, I guess, to untap our stuff during our opponent's turn, because again, what did we just do? We just tapped out and, left ourselves vulnerable. Oh, what's that? Now all our stuff's untapped. Vigilance is really good. We can still do some other shenanigans and whatnot, maybe with our creatures if they're untapped. So maybe it has some other applications, but, we can also just play it after combat, whereas with something that says your creatures have vigilance, we've got to play it before combat, so people won't see it coming as much, so can be useful. I think Akiri Battle Squad and Kami of Celebration are both cards that I think are really good for this deck. Akiri Battle Squad is taking an extra combat for us, which is really good. So as long as we have a modified creature, we can find ways to modify our creatures, put +1 counters on them pretty easily, and whatnot. Put, auras on them or whatever, put equipment on them pretty easily to a degree. Kamiya Celebration, whenever a modified creature attacks, you use the top card of your library, you play that card this turn. Whenever you play a spell from exile, you put a +1 counter on target creature you control. So that helps you modify things. There are also other things that exile our stuff, because we've got some of that red exile-based card advantage in this deck, so it can be really useful. I think maybe that was about it from these cards. Yeah, that was about it from these cards. But those were two really good cards that I thought I wanted to quickly shout out and say these cards from these decks are worth probably throwing into a deck like this. Right now, they're fairly cheap, and I would look to try to pick them up if you can. So you can put them in this deck. Now, again, I probably didn't get to exactly 100 cards here, but you need a whole bunch of, lands, basic lands, and other things like that. Plus, it also lets you decide which ways exactly you want to go, because you might want to go the Voltron route, you might want to go a different route than what I went. You might want to actually put Atali in, you might want to put a Sol Ring in there, because I wouldn't put Sol Ring in there. Even if this was a 2-color deck or a 1-color deck, but in a 3-color deck, I think it's much worse. And in 4 and 5-color decks, it's much worse because it doesn't offer any fixing and whatnot, things like that. So yeah, it's just one of those things about playing cards like that. It's just not the things that I want to do, because again, that's the way that I want to play. But you guys do you, and you guys play the game the way you want to play it. So if those are the cards you want to play, you play them. So hopefully this deck tech here was useful and interesting and whatnot. And maybe it'll inspire you to build a aggro deck, essentially, or a mid-range-ish style deck like this, like I've built. I don't know. Actually, Agitator out. I just saw Agitator out as I was scrolling through. It can be really good for us, and if our opponents ever happen to take the counters, yeah, sure, whatever, go for it. But it can help modify our stuff, which is the main thing, and it just buffs our stuff so that we can, get in there a little bit easier with some of the stuff that's a little bit small. So, yeah, it can be really useful. But anyway, as I said, that's pretty much it for this deck and for this list and for this video. So you can let me know what you think. Write your thoughts down there in the comments below. I'll be sure to respond to all of the comments that I can. I really do love interacting and talking to you guys about all these different EDH decks and whatnot that we all love and all the geeky stuff, because when you guys tell me that you like these things, it really helps me find more things so that I can bring you more great content that you will actually like and actually watch and actually subscribe and like for. So it just helps you out, get more entertainment out of your your subscription. So hopefully that is all cool and all good. So anyway, I'll see you down there in those comments below, or I'll see you in the next one. Hey, you've just finished watching one of our videos. A bunch of other videos are popping up on your screen now for you to check out, so why not check them out?